just one.
I can tell you
what was going through your head and how it went down when you sat there and looked them in the eye and convinced them that you were doing them right while you were lying to them and stealing their money.
Yes, sir. I had a lot of conversations with a lot of my clients that I cared about. And so I will tell you that I had conversations with them where I misled them and I lied to them and I took their money. And that was a number of times.
Okay.
But you're asking me.
Just one specific one, Mr. Murdaugh?
Every single one of these clients I would have had conversations with at some point. But this particular, like Mr. Waters, that disbursement sheet, there was never a sit down with Miss Mallory about the dispersing the money.
You don't recall talking to her about the status of her case and telling her lies and convincing her that you were on her side. You don't remember that?
No, I definitely remember that, but that's not what you asked me. I had numerous conversations with Miss Mallory, about this case. But the fact is you were asking me about me sitting down with this disbursement sheet, looking her in the eye and convincing her. And I'm telling you that didn't happen in this case. Now, I had a lot of conversations with her where I misled her, Mr. Waters, where I lied to her.
Tell me about one. Tell me how it went down.
Where
we're going to recess for the day and resume at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Everyone remain seated while the jury leaves.
2 minutes. We were at 2 minutes. We were so close. 1 minute and 55, 2.5 minutes.
We'll see you all at 9:30 tomorrow morning.
Wow. I can tell you guys, I wonder if they're going to do a little bit of housekeeping once the jury's out of the room. I was not expecting Alex Murdaugh to get on stand today. I full on had no thoughts that they'd put him up there. Do you feel like he was cornered into it where he felt he had to?
Before we adjourn for the day.
From state, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. Your Honor, we have two experts we brought in. Basically, one of them last night, and another one came in today from out of state. They're not complicated. One's pathologist. His testimony will perhaps take 30 to 45 minutes on direct. I don't believe there's going to be much cross. The other one is a crime scene analyst who's testifying not about the whole crime scene, but specifically based on the pathologist testimony.
I know they should have kept grilling him,
Total. It should not take more than 2.5 hours. I wonder, since this apparently going to go on for a while, if we might put them up tomorrow. Either first thing in the morning or the morning break.
They hold different charges, but they all hold hands.
Because I believe his cross is probably going to go into Monday anyway at the rate we're going. It's just an accommodation. They're not controversial. They're not going to opine on who killed who, when, and how. Just the mechanics of what happened.
What says the state?
Your Honor, and I think the defense would have to concede. I've been very as accommodating as I can throughout this, but I do not want to interrupt my cross. They took a very long time today, and the state's entitled to the same consideration without interruption.
Jeanette, I mean, I know he had a drug addiction.
Can you
but
project how many
week,
more hours you have?
Well, I'm actually didn't think it would take this long to get this far, but I think I've got some more financial to move through, and then we'll get to the other evidence. So
4 hours, 6 hours.
I'm so bad at that, Your Honor. 3, 4, something like that.
Say 6.
If that's out at the outside.
So perhaps tomorrow afternoon we could
Your Honor,
get to 1 or
again,
2.
we could probably do this fairly quickly. If Your Honor, just leave that door open. I'm going to keep them here. But if I have to keep them here over the weekend, the financial impact of that is huge.
Tough shit.
I understand the dilemma, but I'm not going to require the state to break up the cross-examination of this witness.
Well, and again, as I
Right? This is crazy.
I could have sworn this was a murder case. For
Yeah,
2 hours now, we haven't heard the word murder once.
Glenda, you're right.
And not criticizing his strategy, obviously denigrating his character is what this is about.
Like we'll
It's
push it
really
right at
not
the end of the
relevant to
day.
the issue
And then
whether he killed.
Credibility is an issue and as relates to all witnesses in every case. The world adjourned until 9:30 tomorrow morning.
you know what, Susan and everyone else is saying it. You're right. The thing that we know about Alex Murdaugh is he only cares about Alex Murdaugh. You know what I mean? There's nobody that in this world that I think he loves more than himself. I don't think there's anybody that he appreciates and respects more than himself. His daddy, his granddaddy. I think that if it's not him or those men before him that gave him all of the things that he is today, which is the raging piece of garbage badges, you know what I mean, that he wears, not just the one that says he's, the a DA, assistant DA, deputy DA, whatever they want to call him, or whatever they referred to them as in South Carolina. We do know that he's got a legacy of being a douchebag, and it comes from, I don't want to see this dude change, man. Take him back to the dressing room. He is, he's doing exactly what he does, though, Dave. You are not wrong. He's circle talking him. He's circle talking him in a way where he's frustrating the attorney, and that I think is dangerous grounds for the prosecution to let themselves get into, to the point where he's getting upset. He's kind of making these we all want to see that, right? We all want to see him make these radical gestures and like yell at him and give him the whole "you can't handle the truth" speech. But really, at the end of the day, I think that Alex is just pissing him off, enough so it kind of throws him off his mark. I feel like the prosecution definitely has a line of approach that they're going on now. They've had, the data, they've had enough in their counsel box there to talk about if this were to come up, a contingency plan for if Alex Murdaugh took the stand. So they've got something in play. They're not, ignorant or naive when it comes to this particular thing happening. Gene, how you doing? Yeah, Minnesota, I hear you guys got it bad. We've had trees collapsing all around us right now from the ice. But what I'm saying is, I feel pretty confident in saying that right now, Alex Murdaugh feels that if he can position himself as good as best he can in the sympathies of the jury to say, listen, I lost my loved ones, I lost my pappy, my wife, my son, blah, 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 fill in the blanks. And beyond that, I did these people wrong. I feel so bad about it. I'm a terrible person. I'm a drug addict. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, great. That's fantastic, man. Good for you. We all know you're a piece of shit. You stole money from children. You stole money from the disabled. You stole money from the inferred. You stole money from people that genuinely needed money, like people that were like quadriplegics. That financial burden that weighs on people is immense. I have one of my best friends growing up broke his back. Was in the situation. Luckily, he had a family that was well off, or he'd have been in a terrible spot where the financial ramifications of injuries, like he represents, are horrible. And the fact that he's able to sit down, especially with underage people, and say, "Hey, I got you. Don't worry. I'm going to take care of this for you," and then snatch that money away from him, it's horrible. His buddy at the bank, he's already been brought up on his charges, so we already know where that's going. So as we sit down and look at this, right, we know the caliber of the individual we're dealing with here. Alex Murdaugh is a world-class piece of shit. We know that much. Here's the issue. And this is the big issue, right? Was he the gunman that killed his wife and son? In the comments, please let me know what you think. That's tough to say. Did he pull the trigger at least once? I feel like the person, and I'm going to say, or the people who actually mowed his wife and son down, probably handed him the gun at one point and said, all right, you're going to put one in him as well. You know what I mean? And you're going to be the last fingerprint that's on this gun. Who knows? But I feel like there's not a doubt in my mind, and I would hope that the prosecution can get this to the jury, which is tough because it's not like I have the final say in this, but that the jury will be able to get to a point and say, okay, we know that beyond a shadow of a doubt he was involved. But if they have a hung jury, which I think is pretty likely. I mean, there's a good possibility. You know, the golf cart. Oh yeah, all these things you guys are throwing in here. Absolutely. There's a very high likelihood that there will be a hung jury in this trial. And I think that Alex Murdaugh might have done it, and I hate saying it, he might have played his cards just right by getting on the stand when he did, and how he's playing it. Hits the sympathy, you know, and he's plugging this whole addict thing. I'm an addict. I was an addict. I'm an addict. I was an addict. I was an addict for 10 years. And it wasn't just pills. It starts with pills, but then it goes into heavier narcotics. And that's what happened with me. For him to just be like, I was just addicted to pain meds. You were in the hustle. They're 100% in the hustle. That money was going places, and it was going probably to the wrong pockets with the wrong people, and you did the wrong things with the wrong people because you're a cocky bastard, and you assumed you could get away from all this. You assumed you were holier than thou, greater than the law, that you could circumnavigate all of the perils and pitfalls that come along with being a douchebag and you know, a world-class criminal. Because you are the law. You have a badge. You got 2 badges. You carry them around, flash them off, tell everybody who's who and what's what. You thought you could walk around it, but then you met up with the wrong people that were like, well, that's funny because I'll stab you in the face with, you know, a broken fence post. So you messed up. And at the end of it, I think that he's very well aware that someone else, Cousin Eddie probably was involved. I don't think there's a chance that we could look past Cousin Eddie, right? I think it's 100% Eddie involvement. You know, he was involved with everything else from all the crimes. Why would he not lean on Eddie for this one as well? But in the drug running, I mean, he was running bad checks. He was running all this money. Everything was running through Eddie, right? Eddie was involved. Eddie was the one he, you know, brought in to shoot him, to kill him, to get that payout. I just wanted to die, you know, but I wanted, you know, my son to get the money. Bullshit. The only way that Buster either knows more than he's letting on. Yeah, Denise. So Buster knows more than he's letting on. That cocky bastard knows a lot more than he's letting on. Was he involved? Was there something more happening there? Who knows? But he definitely knows more than he's letting on. And Cousin Eddie has not been on the stand. Cousin Eddie's actually in protective custody in jail right now. So why is he in protective custody? And here's the things, like I said, you've got to think about, guys. Alex Murdaugh is going to prison for life no matter what, right? Maybe not for the murder of his wife and his child, but these financial crimes that he keeps dancing around with the prosecution about, he's got enough of those admitted, 100% admitted, that he'll go to life. He'll go to prison for longer than he'll be alive. That being said, if he was in fact dealing with the wrong kind of people, which I think we all can agree he was. And if you watch any of these documentaries or go back even further, not just the recent ones, because they're playing off the hype of the arrest, ones that go back and talk to anybody who knows anybody, like I know people down in that area, and they all say the same thing. They're shady as hell. They definitely were involved in stuff, corruption, crooked dealings, like the police were on take. People were dying. People would disappear. That was common around the Murdaugh family. He knows going into this that he's dealt with the wrong kind of people, and the wrong kind of people can get to him, obviously, because they got to him, his wife, and his child. Who knows how? Maybe he was there, maybe he wasn't. I definitely feel like he was present, which is why he's so shook up about it, because he watched it happen probably. That being said, they've come to him probably with an ultimatum and said, listen, here's how this is going to work. You're going to be in prison for the rest of your life. You could either live out the rest of your life in prison comfortably with our protection, or every day of your life in prison could be the most miserable day of existence. Your choice, because we've got connections. People that don't think you can't get touched in prison are 100% wrong. People get touched in prison every day. So, and I don't mean that figuratively, 100% factually get touched in prison every day. So Alex Murdaugh's sitting down looking at some options here, right? Well, I can either do my best to dance through this and not say anyone else's name, know that they don't have enough to hit me with the murders because I didn't actually do the murder. Someone else did, but they can't double jeopardy this. So they're not going to be able to, all right, cool. Well, we feel like someone else did it, but you were involved. You're culpable. You were an accessory after the fact, whatever. That's not what he's getting charged with. So I believe, and I might be wrong, that this might fall under a double jeopardy situation where the charges aren't going to stick. I feel sad saying it, but I feel like the prosecution, and it's not their fault. I don't feel there's enough substantial evidence to put Alex Murdaugh's fingers on the trigger for his wife and his son. That being said, it doesn't make him any less guilty of being involved with those crimes. But what will happen though, right? They'll say, all right, well, Alec,
We said that we didn't exactly know
what's going to happen is they'll say, Alec, all right, you didn't do that, but here we go. We got these financial crimes, right? You're going to go to prison for that. We got you there. Okay. Fair play. There's still people involved. You don't move and shift that much money and have it just disappear without it going into someone else's pocket, right? That backpack cash type situation, duffel bag money, whatever you want to call it, those transfers are going somewhere. It's not just bad business deals when it comes to land, right? Like in the land, if you look at it, look at some of these documentaries they've done, not just the ones that are on popular Netflix and HBO. If you go a little bit further back, the land deals were all right along drug routes, major, huge trafficking routes that come in off the Atlantic coast into these intercoastal waterways and then hit the arterial feeds for the highways that run between Miami and New York for drugs and guns. 100%, without a doubt, he was involved with the drug community, not just in popping pills. Yeah, that's an easy way to go. But if you look at his time of sobriety, I think it's just from when he got arrested. Okay, good deal. I get it. I got sober in jail too. Best thing that could have happened to me. But I'll say this. Your feeble attempt at telling people like, yeah, like I went to detox, 2-3 times. We haven't heard anything about his road to recovery. What about your meetings and all the things that you would have been, privy to and going to? There's no talk about that. He's throwing this addiction thing at the wall here to make it look like that's where my money went. I was a raging drug addict, you guys. And I started off in the Oxycontin days. My drug addiction started back in the end of 2010, right? Right in there, 2009, right on there. And I can tell you right now that Oxycontin was affordable at a point. And then within a year, it got astronomically more expensive. But at no point was it ever so expensive that you could, as an individual, ever do enough of it to spend $50,000 a week, as it was alluded to, on these pills, not for personal consumption. At $1 a milligram, if you went $1 a milligram, follow me on this. And if anyone wants to do the math on this one for me, go ahead. Anyone, I'm throwing this out here. If it's $1 a milligram, which is kind of running average for at a point during that time period, for prescription medication, if that's the case, look at it from $1 a milligram, 50,000 milligrams a week, go that route. See if that works out, how much that would be a day. And you got to buy a friend, buddy. End of the day, though, we have all these opportunities to look at the forensic evidence, right? And what do we have? We have we've got the lies, right? Where he physically was. Then you got to look at why he was lying, and if you're willing to lie about one thing, you're willing to lie about it all. He was lying about his whereabouts, his time with his housekeeper or his the caregiver for his mother. He lied about being the kennels, he lied about, you continue the role of lies, right? And why I didn't want to look as guilty as I looked. Well, if you're not guilty, you won't look guilty, right? I mean, yeah, it's easy to paint someone into a picture, but if you just rolled up, I would never think if I walked into I came upon a woman drowning in Hawaii once, was stuck in between some rocks. When I pulled her out and started doing CPR, at no point in time did I think, oh, they're going to think I tried to drown this woman. I better find a way to back out of this. If you drove up on your dead wife and son, whose brains were out of his head, the brains literally blown out of his head, right? Like they said, his brains were not in his skull. And I'm being graphic because that's the point. He checked his pulse apparently, which is where any blood might have come from. Come on. And that's not even in a panic. You don't think immediately, how can I avoid looking guilty for this? Unless you're involved in it and you need to find a way to look less guilty for it. You know what I mean? So, and again, I've done this before with people, but I encourage anyone here to try to find your own pulse, right? Barely, I can find one right there. Find yourself in a panic and then feeling around. He got shot in the chest, right? And all this buckshot, brain shot, whatever. Like there was chest wounds. I mean, let's pull it up here real quick. The Paul Murdaugh wounds, right? He was could he have survived the first gunshot? Who knows, right? But they're saying that he was shot twice with a shotgun, right? The second shot entered Paul Murdaugh's left shoulder, traveling into his neck and brain. Okay. So the first one apparently was to the chest. The brain was completely detached from the head, it says, which would have caused immediate death. Paul Murdaugh was first struck in the chest as he stood in the feed room connected to the property's dog kennels, an outbuilding on the family's property in Moselle, South Carolina. His mother, Maggie Murdaugh, was shot 5 times, right, including the back of the head with a semi-automatic rifle, and died about 30 yards from her son. Alex Murdaugh, the scion of once powerful, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, one of the sources said his head exploded like a watermelon. Told the news site of Paul Murdaugh's injuries. I mean, you can see his face, but the rest of it, his head, it's just gone. Totally empty. I'm not laughing at that. What I'm laughing at is the fact that Alex Murdaugh then says he checked his pulse. And then his phone fell out of his pocket when he moved him by his belt loop, right? And then he put it back on his pants, but there was blood inside of his pocket. None of it lines up enough to say, hey, this is what happened, right? This makes sense. This is the findings, right? It's it's just enough to tell you that, yeah, there was they said he fanatically checked them for signs of life. There's not a chance that you were sitting there checking for signs of life when your son's head was half of it's gone. You don't do it. And then he tried to turn him over. Yeah. Okay. If he was face down, that would have been the only thing that was there was a face. The whole head was gone. The brain was out. You're not checking for a pulse. It's interesting that he didn't say, I don't remember hearing him say that he checked for a pulse on Maggie. Follow me on this. He checked for the pulse on Paul because he had to touch that phone that Paul had. He had to go ahead and put his fingers on that, right? At some point, for whatever reason, that was brought up, the phone that Paul had on him still. Maggie didn't get checked. Maggie was shot 5 times, right? She was shot in the hand. Let me double check here where Maggie was shot, because at the end of it all, where are we at here? Maggie took. Well, let's look at this. Here we go. All right. Well, yeah, we're not going to find anything directly related to that, but I know we have the New York Times here, New York Post. Anyway, what I'm getting at is where she was shot, right? Could have easily led her to, I said it right here, actually. Right. All right. The back of the head. All right. Semi-automatic. So Maggie, the one that the kill shot from Maggie was the back of the head. That would have killed her, right? They said she wasn't shot on the ground. Like someone wasn't standing over her because there was no bullet directly in the side of her head where she was shot. That being said, moving past those forensics, she got in the wrist. I think it was the hip, the leg, enough to put her down, right? I wonder, and this is where I'm wondering, if she survived those shots and the fatal shot, the kill shot, and follow me, because these are all we have to wonder, right? Like I said before, it wasn't done by Alec Murdaugh himself. That's where he was put in on the scene. Like he had to go get a gun to defend himself. He had gunshot residue on him but no blood, right? Was the kill shot done by him? Did he put one in the back of her head because she survived the first couple shots, the first 4, somehow made her way through it, and then was shot in the back of the head? You know, who knows? I don't. Desiree says, I don't believe it was the father. I think that it was someone from the boat accident that killed the son and his mother. You know, that's one theory. That's one theory. I don't think that anybody would have waited this long to do that at this point. You know, it just doesn't line up for me. Pam Surratt says, if you pull in your yard and see something like this, wouldn't you call 911 immediately? Yeah, the first thing I'm doing is going to call a medic. I'm not going to run up. I'm going to call and have an ambulance, hopefully on the way. So if I do find a pulse, there'll be someone on their way already. They did Papa so bad. He said, yeah. What do we get? I think Alex realized they were both dead. Yeah, but let me see the adrenaline. Yeah, absolutely, guys. I'm seeing a lot of that. Let me see. I busted a medication nurse for stealing 10 of a patient's OxyContin. He was selling them back in his hometown. Yeah. I know plenty of people that are doing that kind of stuff. Cody. Anyway. Anyway, as an old comment. So we're back to a point where we have an opportunity to look at the facts that they have, and I feel like right now prosecution is still lacking in in their closed door case. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they're going to bring to the table tomorrow, but we do have some more questions. And you already know that he's got some grand statements. And I also want to say one more thing. Alec Murdaugh is definitely going to go that route. So either way, I encourage everyone to set up notifications, get ready for tomorrow. We're going to kick things off bright and early at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern Standard, and 6:30 for you West Coasters to get another look at the final round of questioning for Alec Murdaugh, who surprised us all and took the stand today. If you would, please not only set up notifications, share the stream. Put it out there. It helps grow the channel and it helps support what I'm doing here. If you're not able to contribute stars or super chats and super stickers over on YouTube, I do appreciate that, guys. Like I said, it helps keep the lights on, the computer running, and puts food in the dog's belly. You know what I mean? So I do this because I believe in it, and I know that a lot of you have been with me for a long time, you know, since the beginning. And I appreciate you supporting the efforts that I put into to help and convey the most I can while I'm able to here in studio or out on the streets, to give us the most amount of truth and evidence that we can, or truth and voice elevation that we can possibly find. You all make it happen. Like I said, we're viewer funded, and I appreciate all your contributions, you guys. It makes a world of difference in doing what we do here. We will be back with you tomorrow, bright and early. Like I said, it's not too early. 8:30 is not so bad. It's not as bad as, you know, with like the Rittenhouse trial or, you know, some of these other ones where I was still back in Seattle, and it was starting at 8:30 here Central, which was putting things very early for me back home. But you guys are great, and it's been an amazing chat too. I love the theory that comes in. You guys, there's some solid views as to how this all went down coming in from our chat, and I encourage you all to jump in there if you are looking to have some conversation, even individually with anybody. Back and forth is a great place to make a connection, you guys. The CJTV community over here on YouTube and Facebook, Twitch, Periscope, Twitter, however you will, great places to come and really engage with like-minded individuals and possibly people that have completely countering viewpoints and differing thoughts, but it's a good place to, you know, test your theories on life, you know? So I appreciate everybody for jumping in today and for being a part of this. And I definitely, like I said, encourage you to come back tomorrow. I will see you guys then. Have an amazing night. Take care.